If you would like to know how you can make some changes right now that will help your future self with decluttering, well, we should talk more about that. Well, hello friends, I'm Mary Beth with At What Cost, where simple living and deep faith go hand in hand. And yes, we are going to talk about the 10 ways that we can do some things now that are going to help our future selves when it comes to decluttering. So right out of the gate, number one, eliminate as many flat surfaces as you can. Yeah. This flat surface, it's clean right now, but it's not usually clean. It looks a little bit more like that one over there with the Legos and the art projects and all of the things. Now that surface is intended to kind of be a little messy sometimes, and that's okay. My kids do a lot of their art projects in here. They're very creative and it can get a little chaotic, but it brings it right back in. But other areas of my home may not be as forgiving, like my kitchen countertops or end tables in the living room, perhaps your nightstand. Have you ever thought about eliminating your nightstand? I bet you haven't, but you are now. You're welcome. Where clutter is, clutter will be. It will multiply. So get rid of the flat surfaces if you can. But this one is a little bit more like a proverb than like a principle, okay? We know that with the proverbs, they're just kind of general guides. They're not hard, fast rules. The most common example is if you train a child up in the way that he should go, when he is old, he will not depart from it. Sometimes we do a really great job training our kids and they're people, so they do things and they don't always go in the directions we would like for them to go. This next one is sort of like that, so keep that in mind, okay? Do not eliminate all of your flat surfaces. I know it seems contradictory, but hear me out. So let me give you my real world example, because when I first started decluttering, I was real gung-ho about getting rid of the flat surfaces, and it has served me well, except in some areas. So I love books. It is my weakness. It is my throw pillows. If you know, you know. But I love books and I need some place to store them. So here in this office, which has always been a point of contention, I had a bookshelf and I had many of my books on it, but I also found myself just stuffing random things in there, and it became a dumping ground very quickly. So when I did a huge purge of this office, I got rid of those bookshelves. I rehomed them into an area where I actually read the books, which is in our master bedroom. I have my husband did these like beautiful shelves and I can display all of my books. Problem is, I didn't have anywhere to put any of the other things that I was storing on those shelves that actually belong in the office. So it's important that we don't get rid of all of our flat surfaces. It's really more about balance. If we have too many flat surfaces and just wide open spaces for us to dump things off on, it will become cluttered. But if we have useful spaces that have enough area to contain the things that we do want to store, then we can avoid some of that dumping ground because it has a home. Everything has a home in that space. We're looking to keep our flat surfaces useful, which brings me to point number 3. Use it or lose it. If we get into this habit and this mindset that if I'm not using something and I have no plans to use it in the future, and this is a tricky one, not the just in case, but if you have no plans to use it in the future, if you're not using it, we need to lose it. And I know this is hard. It was very difficult for me to get rid of things that I felt were useful, that I could potentially have a use for, or worse, that I had spent money on. But if I'm not using it, I really don't want it taking up the space of something that I could be using. A great example of this is shampoo, conditioner, other hair product. We buy something, it's not living up to the expectation, and now we have a half bottle of something left. Just toss it. Most donation places are not going to take a half-used bottle of shampoo. It's just for your own peace of mind. You just gotta ditch it. This can also be helpful in helping us make some decisions about purchases. I'm very tempted in the moment to want to purchase something. I see it. I'll give you a great example. I have another example here. I saw a fruit slicer, a soft fruit slicer, and I thought, this is incredible. I probably saw it on one of those cool finds reels that I was scrolling through, and they just sliced all of the fruit. It was like boom, 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 and it was incredible. And I thought, I need something like that. It would make school lunches so much easier. But am I actually going to use it? Probably not. It's just as easy for me to take my paring knife and my little cutting board and slice it into a couple of pieces. But you may actually have a use for that. Maybe you make egg salad every single week, and it is easier for you to just use one of those soft choppers to be able to do it. If you're going to use it, keep it. But if you don't really think you're going to use it, consider skipping the lose it part and just not getting it all together. Now, number 4 is a little controversial. It goes against most of what people would recommend for decluttering. But again, hear me out, because these are more like proverbs than principles. As you are decluttering, focus on your feelings. Now, this takes a bit of self-awareness. We need to practice this, develop this, really lean in to wanting to understand why we have such a strong desire to keep some of these things. Why does this stuff have a hold on us? And until we really look at our own feelings, it's hard for us to figure that out. Now, most decluttering experts are going to recommend that you not touch items, that once you start holding something, you're gonna have a much stronger attachment to it. And while I believe that that is true in many cases, I have found what I affectionately call my crap time capsules, where I have either scraped off of a countertop all of the collection of things into a basket, or I just have layers upon layers of stuff that I have just been storing. And I open it up and there may be some things in there right on the top that I want to deal with, but I know as I get further down, I have not looked at those things or even thought about those things sometimes in years. Handling those items, it may be easy for me to touch and sort through those items and let it go and it won't be a problem. But when it comes to sentimental items, it may be a lot more difficult for me to pick up each item and try to make some decisions. Let your feelings be your guide. Again, within boundaries and using some caution. Our emotions will often reveal to us whether we have a healthy attachment to this item or if we have moved into the realm of idolatry. Again, this is a skill that we develop over time. In the beginning of your decluttering journey, this may be difficult to do, and we may want to save some of those sentimental items for last. The things that we have really strong feelings about and attachments to, that's a clue for us to move into a direction where we can declutter some things that we're less attached to, build up those muscles, and have a different perspective when we come back to some of those items. So let your feelings feel, but remember, you get to choose how you respond to them. Number 5, declutter in short bursts. 5 to 15-minute increments is all you need to really get some good decluttering done. Much longer than that, and you can run into some decision fatigue. Again, with our proverb versus principle though, you may find that you reach that 15-minute mark or that 5 mark or maybe the 10 mark, and you feel really energized to keep going and to really work through some of this stuff. By all means, go for it. But again, take inventory of when you start to feel that push to slow down and you may be feeling a little overwhelmed. It's okay if it's only been 15 or 20 or 30 minutes and you intended to go for a couple of hours. Lean into that short burst of decluttering and do what you can with the time that you have. Number 6, declutter in the moment. This is especially helpful with my bathroom vanity. As I'm waiting for my straightening iron to heat up or my curling iron, or I'm drying my hair and I've got that kind of downtime where I still have to be present, I'm getting ready. that's a great time to grab a trash bag and get rid of any trash that may be built up on your vanity or in your vanity, perhaps in the shower. What is it about leaving like almost empty bottles in the shower and starting a new one? I don't know. Is that just me? Does that just happen at my house? I'm sure it doesn't. But that's a great time as you're working through to make some on-the-fly kinds of decisions. And the bathroom and the kitchen tend to be places where you can do a lot of those on-the-fly kinds of declutterings with very low stakes. And keep in mind that doing this kind of in-the-moment tidy will also make you feel so much better when you walk into that space, which will feel less overwhelming and you will feel way more capable of decluttering in the future. Number 7, don't wait for the perfect place to declutter this item. I know we want to be responsible. I definitely feel it. We want to make sure that the things that we love or that we've spent money on end up in the hands that they should be in. We certainly don't want to be contributing to the landfill. I know that's one of the things that's going to come up. I get it. This is sort of a cost-benefit analysis thing that we need to do here. Is the cost of my time and energy and effort really worth it to get these items out of my house? Maybe you can't give it to the absolute perfect charity that you really wish that you could find, or maybe you just cannot get over to the animal shelter to give them those towels, but you do have a trip planned where you're going to go past a donation center. Just take it. However you have to get this out of your home, get it out of your home. It's okay to throw things away. Consider this permission to throw some things away. I will take the heat. Blame it on me. At the end of the day, it is more important for your own peace of mind for you to find sanctuary and calm and really enjoy living in your space. It's far more worth it than trying to figure out where each individual item needs to go. Number 8, again, with the proverb style, plan time to declutter. We want to declutter in small bursts. We want to declutter in the moment, but we may also want to plan time to declutter. Before we reduced the number of items in our home by about 80%, I planned some serious decluttering time. I would occasionally take a day off of work when my kids were in school that I could devote the entire day to decluttering one specific area of my home. I had a plan, I had a trash bag, I had donation boxes, I had a plan to get them into my car and to get them to a donation center by the end of the day. Sometimes my husband would take the kids to a playground on Saturday and they'd have a picnic lunch so that I could stay home and declutter a space. And I know I'm going to get some pushback. I did in those early days too, that I should be spending time with my family. I should prioritize time with my children, that I should not be asking my husband to take the kids to the park, and let alone, how dare I let them eat popcorn for dinner so that I can spend some time decluttering. They will survive. Okay, don't do the popcorn for dinner every night, but for the most part, the time that you invest in your decluttering is only going to expand the time that you get with your family. I know it's hard to accept, especially as a working mom with 3 kids who are in school. The time that I have with them can be somewhat limited. But when we look at planning time to declutter, we're talking about a fraction of time that we will use to get exponentially more time with our children. We're not going to be standing at the sink for 3 hours doing dishes because they've built up so much. We're actually teaching our children about good stewardship when we control the inventory in our home. So do not be afraid to hire a babysitter so that you can lock yourself away in the bedroom and do all the decluttering that you can in there. I give you permission to do these things. Again though, and like popcorn, cereal, it's okay for dinner every now and then, just not all the time. I mean, you've got standards, you do. Number 9 is something that you can start today and will definitely help you in the future. It just may take some time for you to get there, and that is to learn to live with less. Now, this is a process. That's why I say learn to live with less. We have to have some serious trial and error in our homes while we change this mindset of what we actually need to thrive, not just survive. I'm not on board for a survival minimalism. I'm really looking for that delicate balance where my family can thrive and I don't feel so overwhelmed by my home. Learning to live with less is sort of like adjusting to that balance and learning to not feel so shaky in it. That balance can feel way off in the beginning. You'll walk into rooms and they look empty. Your rooms may even sound different when you walk into them. And this takes time to adjust to. For some reason, I don't know why it was so pronounced in our living room, because we didn't have a ton of stuff. That was a room in our home where I actually had to do very little decluttering. But there was something about taking down some of the plants and decorations that I had on a particular hutch that changed the entire look of the room. And initially when I walked in, I thought, this doesn't look at all like that beautiful staged living room that I saw on Pinterest that I was trying to emulate. This looks empty and sterile and cold. And after a while, when I would walk into that room, my idea of empty actually changed to refreshing. It felt clear. It felt like a heaviness had been removed from our home, just with a simple change. But that took time. Initially, I saw those bare spaces and I wanted to fill them back up again. This is hands down my favorite one, and that is to pray. Pray, pray, pray. For many of us, this is not just a journey of decluttering our home and being able to tidy it up. It really is a path of seeking to satisfy ourselves less with things of the world and be more rightly aligned with the sanctification, with the changes that God is doing in our lives. So when we walk into those spaces and we feel like they're kind of empty, ask God to fill those spaces with things that matter to Him. Maybe it's spending more time in personal Bible study. Maybe it's actually joining a small group or discipleship group or a women's Bible study. Maybe you have time now that's been freed up to pursue some other things. And it's not just about filling the space. Sometimes we have to ask God to help adjust our thinking and make us okay and even delight in some of these open spaces, because we know that it is clearing our minds so that we can better focus on our relationship with Him, on serving others, and really leaning hard into our faith. We cannot do this without Him. I mean, you can, okay? Like, you can do this without Him. There are lots of people who have written lots of books and have tons and tons of videos on how you can declutter your house, get rid of all of your stuff, and be totally happy. But if you're a believer, you know that happiness is a fleeting feeling, and what you truly desire is joy in the Lord. So doing this with God at the center is only going to lead you to that place of joy. And if you're still watching at this point in the video, I would imagine that you too have figured out that decluttering our home and living a more minimalist lifestyle is not really about the things. It's about taking out the excess that steals away our time. It's about understanding that there is an abundance that has nothing to do with stuff. I hope that you're here because you want to dismantle the idols in your life. And that the way that you care for your home, the way that you steward the things God's given you, is a way of glorifying and honoring Him with everything that you do, whether it's dishes or laundry or toys or Bible study or just tidying up your home. I want to encourage you to keep Christ at the very center of your decluttering. That is the best thing that you can do for your future self as you go through this process of decluttering your home. So if you have not subscribed, I would love for you to do that. And if you are still watching, you know that it's family time. Well, hello friends, it's family time. During the course of this video, my dog Gunner, you probably know him well, found a little brown lizard in our kitchen. And at first I was not sure what it was. And then I realized exactly what it was and opened the back door, grabbed a broom, and went to kindly fling said lizard out the door when Gunner grabbed the lizard and took off into the house. Yes, with a lizard in his mouth. So he immediately went to his kennel and tried to drop the lizard off, but he didn't quite make it. The lizard escaped underneath his kennel. I was able to move the kennel. I got the broom. I opened the front door and I flung the lizard out. The joys of living in Georgia and the joys of having a German short-haired pointer who is relentless when he smells something. Even now, you can probably hear him in the background sniffing away at his kennel. He's convinced that that lizard is under there, and he will probably do this for the next week. So fear not, there were no lizards harmed in the making of this video. I flung him out the door and he ran off down the sidewalk. He will live to fight another day, hopefully not in my kitchen. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching, and until I see you again, keep fighting the good fight.